Welcome to another WriterlyWitterings, and today we're looking at the Conway Stewart Churchill, the new one. Now, before looking at the brand new one, let's look at how things used to be. This is the pen I bought in about 1999, I think. As you can see, quite stunning packaging. And inside, two brass clips. You find you have a little book of quotations by Churchill. You find you have a cigar, still sealed, probably rather dry by now, some black ink, an instruction manual, and the pen itself. This is an original Churchill from the first run of limited editions, where you can possibly see it says Conway Stewart 214 of 1000. So that was the total run of the Churchill in quote marks, made in England. And then if you unscrewed it, you had a nice gold nib. Now, what I loved about this pen was that it was a simple, old-fashioned, fat, large-size pen which suited my style of writing. Now let's look at the modern pen. Still got the box, but the packaging is rather more, well, I have to say the word refined. Let's just tip that out there. Put the box to one side. So here's the pen. Let's oik it out and put it in its rest nice and neatly. Now, how does this compare? It is exactly the same sort of dimension. How heavy is it? I don't know. Let's find out. So this is again without any ink in it. It's 40 grams without any ink in it. Without the cap, 29 to 30. So significantly heavier. It does feel a lot better in the hand. So having done that, let's have a quick look at the outside of it. Nothing on the top of the cap, nothing on the base. Good strong Conway Gordon clip that's a little bit easier to use than my last one, but still rigorous enough to hold it in place. And it has got, don't know if you can see that, I'm just going to zoom in quickly for this. It has got assay marks to prove that it's genuine gold. So in terms of size, very appealing. I prefer the slight heavier weight. It has this lovely two-tone nib, which has the Union flag on it, the Union Jack. I'm looking forward to testing this. It's one of the things I've been looking forward to trying out for a long time, is just how these more flexible nibs work. The way to fill it is by cartridge converter or using an ink cartridge. Now I have an embarrassing array of different inks, and I think I'm going to go for some Pelikan Edelstein Sapphire with this. I just think it'll work nicely. So let's fill it up. That gives us a good quantity of ink there. Always remember, lid on the ink bottle before anything else, because otherwise you spread ink all over your desk, and that's never a good idea. Now you can see here that there is some distinctly good line variation there, but with the fat, well, it's not a fatter nib, it's a medium nib, but with this nib it works quite finely. That could just be a factor of the fact that it's brand new, but you can get nice line variation when you press a bit harder, and you do get really nice shading. And the two things I love about a good nib are a bit of line variation and a lot of shading. This pen works really well. I like the sort of guilloche type pattern that it's got on it too. It just gives it a little bit more feel, makes it feel better in the hand. The added weight, the guilloche type of decoration, make this infinitely more pleasant to hold. The nib makes it vastly better in terms of an experience when writing. This is a pen that would be used a lot by anyone who owned it, I think. It's the sort of thing that would appeal to anybody writing letters or journaling. Doesn't really matter what you're doing. That is a lovely, lovely pen to use. Now we have looked at the absolutely delightful new Churchill. Compared to my old one, it's a bit like comparing a car from the 2020s with the equivalent car from the 1970s. It does feel that different. Let's now have a look at the other pen that we were sent, the Wordsworth. This is a pen that I really have been wanting to try because it's that bit smaller and therefore just that bit more portable. And portability for me is a very important thing. Now, looking at it first, it has this beautiful deep patterning within the resin. I don't know what sort of flakes they are, some alternative type of plastic of some sort, but they're very beautiful. It's got a plain cap, it's got a plain bottom end, has two gold rings on it. There's no sign of any writing or anything else. It's just a plain simple pen. Very strong clip, much stronger than I was expecting compared to the Churchill. And if you take the cap off, let's have a look, it's got another gorgeous flexible nib. Thick gold band here. And let's just, before we do anything else, work out how heavy it is. And the weight of this is 32, or uncapped 23, sorry. So, not a heavy pen, but it's not a big pen either. This is a pen that would happily sit in my shirt pocket all day long. So let's ink it up and see how it works. I used some Pelican ink in the last bit of writing, so today I'm going to use some more Pelican, but this time it's the Star Ruby. Same method of filling as most other pens nowadays. You can either use a cartridge or a cartridge converter. It is a trifle short. I'm not going to cap it because I generally don't like capping pens full stop, but it would cap perfectly happily. The only trouble with capping I always find is that you're liable to leave scratches on the back end, and that really irritates me. So I'm not going to cap it. There you go. I'm a rebel. Here we go with This is a fine nib and gives even better line variation, I think, than the medium. It feels easier to do it. Maybe it's just that the tines are a bit thinner, but good variation on lines, which I love, as I've said. Really is lovely. It feels smooth over the paper. There's got a gorgeous ink flow to it, and it just feels right in the hand. That is a lovely, lovely little pen. It's possibly a little garish for some, but I can assure you that in the flesh that sort of deep rosy red looks really rather fabulous. I think it looks a lot better in the flesh than it does in photos, possibly on video as well. That is just a delightful pen to use. Interestingly, if you look at these two, the medium is definitely a medium compared to the fine, but the line variation, you seem to get about as thick a line with the fine as you do with the medium, which is quite interesting, I find. I would say out of the two, this would get my vote for journaling because it's that little bit smaller, it's that little bit more portable. I really, really like the Churchill. Fetching it out of its box again. These box lids are really very tight fitting. I like that. There is something understated about the way it looks. It's the sort of dull matte effect of the barrel and the cap. And I'll let you into a secret. One reason why I use my Viscontis all the time and stopped using my Churchill, one reason was the Churchill was that bit lighter and it didn't feel as good in the hand as a Visconti. The Visconti have that sort of mixture of rubber and volcanic lava. But the thing that really worried me was constantly that the Churchill would gain little scratches and nicks and then it wouldn't look as good. There is the same risk with this, the Wordsworth, but with this Churchill I get the feel that it wouldn't actually scratch so easily because it has a sort of matte barrel and cap anyway. It's less likely to show any damage like that. I'm now going to re-record this because apparently I didn't hit the right button earlier. This isn't supposed to be an exhaustive review of these two pens. I'm not an exhaustive reviewer. I love both of them. If I was to be considering buying one of them, for my purposes, if I was going to be using it for extensive writing, I think it would still be the Churchill because I love that pen. And it does give you the feeling of size and heft when you're writing with it. But for me, having already got a Churchill, this little Wordsworth fits in my shirt pocket and is, I think, really just delightful. I would even go with the fine nib, and it's rare that I would say that, but I think that pen with that nib is pretty much the perfect combination for someone who just wants a pen to carry around with them. I say that because although I've always liked oversized pens, my Viscontis, my Churchill, my Drake, I've only recently, as I've been talking about, rediscovered the delights of my little old Schaefer that I bought back in the 1970s and I was using at school. This thing stays with me all day every day because it's so small it fits in my shirt pocket easily. And as you can see, it's about the same length as the Wordsworth, the only difference being that it is a great deal thinner. which is not so good for me because I prefer a fatter pen to write with. The Wordsworth would be better. Hope that was interesting. Later on, you'll be able to see what I do with the pair of them in journals. So I hope that was interesting. Thanks a lot for watching. If you want to support this channel, go to the Patreon link down at the bottom. If you want to ask any questions, put them in the comment section. If you would like to hear about future videos, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button to be notified of new videos coming through. Share it, like it, all the rest of the stuff. You know what to do. And apart from that, stay safe. And I hope these little journaling and review videos are helpful. If not, that's a shame. What else can I do? Thanks a lot for watching. Take care. Cheers.